Welcome to the Agent Bridge podcast. We're your hosts, Brandon Baca.
And I'm Marl Hessen.
The Agent Bridge is the proven path to real estate success without the burnout. Done? Oh, is that it? We're going? That's fine.
Yeah, no,
we're going to
no.
know. We can go.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were like recording just that particular part.
Well,
so
we
could
were,
save
but
it.
you know, whatever. Let's just start.
Yeah, let's just get it going. There
All
was an awkward silence.
Episode 10, right?
Episode 10, we're here. We're getting ready. We're coming up on Christmas, which agents usually use this time. It's interesting because agents like take a month off.
Yeah.
And I was telling, we were in one of our masterminds yesterday. I was like, listen, and this is just a little tip for agents out there. I think it's appropriate to take time off for Christmas. Absolutely. I don't think it's good to be a workaholic. You want to spend time with your family. But there's a couple of things that agents will do. One of them is they'll take a month off, or they'll work through the time that they need to be off and end up ticking off their family. So look, here's what I told some agents yesterday. Block that week or 10 days or whatever it is and be off, okay? But the days leading up and the days after, go back to work. Go back to your appointments. Go back to your process. Go back to your strategy. Keep doing the right things because you're going to have a bigger pipeline once people get back in the market.
Yeah. Time blocking works for time off just as well as it does for your business. I mean, vacations, when you're at vacation, you're with your family. You're not working.
Right.
You've got that taken care of if you're delegating properly, which really haven't done one on delegating. That's probably a good
Yeah, we can do that one next time.
podcast. So if you're delegating properly, you shouldn't have to take care of a lot of stuff while you're on vacation. Same with the time blocking for the holidays. Just set aside that time for your family. Do that for the 10 days or whatever it is you're going to do and get back at it.
Whatever you do, don't get in that mindset that, well, I tried time blocking. It's not working for me. It's going to take practice to get it right. So
sure.
your first when you're in real estate, your first vacation, it's going to be real hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to try. You need to make an effort at setting that time aside, being present with your family, things like that. And you'll get progressively better. Where I like to go is I do this before any sort of time off or vacation planner or whatever at fullfocus.co. That's Michael Hyatt, who is the former CEO of Thomas Nelson. So he has a little vacation optimizer. And before I go on vacation, I do that vacation optimizer just so I'm delegating. I'm doing my all of my email, what do you call them? Instant replies and all that stuff. So people know that I'm off and I'm able to really unplug.
If you can't go anywhere or do anything without this, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
So we'll do a podcast on delegation.
For you guys that are listening, he held up his phone. So yeah.
Yeah, good point. Some of us are doing video. I'm doing phone, but whatever.
Right. Okay, so we're going to talk about, in episode 10, we're going to talk about the science of startup. And this is it's good to conceptually get a grasp of this because your business is going to progress. You're going to have different places that you need to focus, and understanding these sort of 4 concepts of business and where they fit in the overall the overall planning of your business and the integration of your business. It's just important to understand how these things work together so you can understand what you're focusing on. So I want to explain, and by the way, for any of you guys that are business nerds, like I can be sometimes, there is a book called Managing Corporate Life Cycles by a guy named Adizes. And this is where these basic concepts, now we're not going to go super high level with this. We want to relate it to the real estate business, but that's where it comes from if you really want to dig into corporate life cycles, things like that. But there's 4 basic elements of business. Okay, the first is entrepreneurship. That's the idea. Okay, that's hey, I want to get my real estate license. That's your entrepreneurial idea. Okay. The second is you have performance, sales. That's where you're focusing on performing on your idea and getting money for that idea. Okay. Third, you have your administration. So that's your task management, your systems. For a real estate agent, that'd be like your MLS, your .loop, whatever marketing plan you have, your transaction coordinator, all of that stuff. Okay. And fourth, you have the integration, which that's where you get into culture, that's baked in systems and processes for scalability, things like that. So again, it's entrepreneurship, performance, administration, and integration. Now, what's interesting about these 4 tenets of business is they are all going to have different levels of importance as you progress. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Is there anything you would say or would add to that?
No, I think we can start there. I mean, obviously, let's hit on each of these different areas of the business and as we move through the podcast. But yeah, I think let's start there and we'll dive into them now.
The first thing that I want to say is startup is messy. If you are a real estate agent and you're starting up a business, or you are starting a business, you are a business owner. Okay, so if you got your real estate license, you are a business.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this one in particular. I mean, it's just getting started, period.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about knowing everything there is to know about contracts or about making calls or messing up. It's like now in this phase, you've got your license and you're just getting started. Just get started.
That's exactly right. And so you're not going to have it all figured out.
It's going to be messy. Just let it be messy.
Yeah. What is it? There's a saying from Robin Sharma that I like. It's like progress. It's messy in the beginning. No. It's hard at the beginning. It's messy in the middle, beautiful in the end. So you just have to embrace the chaos in a way.
Yep.
If you're in sort of a business startup. And that's where I find, a lot of people get sideways is they can't handle all of the mess. They want to get everything just right and perfect, and that it's not going to work that way. You have to focus on the right things at the right time. And that's what this is really about. So
that's why most people fizzle out within the first 2 years of being an agent, is because they want it to be perfect. They don't get started because they're afraid that they don't know exactly how everything's going to work. And they just never do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously that's not what we want. We don't want to be out of the business in 2 years. We want to be learning the business in the first 2 years and then really accelerating our business in the 3rd and 4th year.
Agreed. So the second, or not the second, the first thing is, again, the entrepreneurship. Okay. You have an idea and you perform on that idea. Okay. So again, you had an idea to become a real estate agent. Okay. And you went through real estate school and you got your license and you joined a brokerage and all that stuff, right? So entrepreneurship, that's as far as you need to take it. Okay. So what you don't want to do, and this question gets asked to me a lot, is somebody's always like looking for an angle on the business. They're like, well, what if I focused on this, or what if I focused on that? Or what if I want to be a disruptor in the marketplace? Learn the business first, because you're not going to even know how you can disrupt a business until you know what the business is.
Yeah.
Most real estate agents, they don't have and when they're starting up, they don't really know all of the moving parts of the business and how it works. So it's hard to become a disruptor if you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
So I'm not saying you shouldn't be a disruptor or you shouldn't have new ideas in business, any of that stuff. I'm just saying that your first 2, 3, 4 years in the business, you just need to be practicing the business, learning it, looking for the opportunities, and just getting an understanding of how everything works.
Yeah. I mean, the luxury is the one we hear the most, right? We hear everybody wants to be a luxury agent because they see those shows on TV, or they realize, hey, if I sell only $1 million homes, my commissions are much higher. In reality, people become luxury agents in 2 ways. One, you already have a very extensive network and you are a very influential person in that network. Right. So people already know, like, and trust you. Yeah. And you will know if you were that person. Nobody needs to tell you that.
That's right.
And 2, they've worked their way up to that. They started selling real estate like everybody else. They've built up a pipeline for years, and eventually they get referrals, and their original clients have now become wealthier. They start to buy more expensive real estate. They refer to your friends. It evolves naturally. And so that's really the 2 ways people get into luxury real estate. Not very many people just start real estate and they're like, guess what? I'm gonna sell luxury homes. Come find me. It just doesn't work like that.
I'm only selling things over 1.2 million. It typically doesn't work that way. Or I'm going to say 99% of the time, it's not going to work that way. And you're right. You know if you're that person.
You already know if you're that person. Nobody needs to tell you.
So the way that I think about it, though, and I tell real estate agents this a lot, it's like you think of like if you're hunting, right? It's like you got rabbits and you got elephants. Okay, rabbits are going to keep you fed every day, and you can kill an elephant every once in a while, and that's going to bring you food for several months. But don't focus on that. There's a long line of people waiting to waste your time in real estate. And they usually sound like, hey, I want to buy this apartment complex.
Yeah.
And I want to buy a luxury home. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of distractions, and you can kind of get that shiny object syndrome and waste a large amount of time with people who have these massive ideas. And you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna link arms with this person and we're gonna get rich together. That's typically not how it works. Most of the time in real estate, you're gonna have to start from the bottom and work your way up so that you can decipher where the real opportunities are in the business.
Yep.
So go sell houses. Go sell them to first-time home buyers. Go sell them to people who are downsizing. Just go sell. Which brings us to our second part of this, or the second thing that you need to be focused on, again, which is money, profit. So again, we have the entrepreneurship. Okay, let's put a ribbon on that. We've already taken that as far as we need to take it. You got a real estate license and we need to sell houses. Now we're going to focus on following the system, profit. We've talked about this in previous podcasts. If you haven't heard it before, go back and listen to previous podcasts. But it is the idea of working transactional lead sources like for sale by owners, working open houses to meet people who are ready to buy in the next 3 to 6 months. You need to be focusing the majority of your time there. That's what's going to get you that experience that you need to work your way up in the market into whatever you want to be. But that's where you're going to learn. And that's where you're going to survive, is through that cash flow. So focus on dialing in what you need to do to produce cash into your business.
Yep. At this point, you're already starting to make some sales. You've got a pipeline. You're learning systems and processes to dial in that pipeline. And then as you progress, you're going to start getting more and more efficient. But right now you're learning those systems. You're learning how to use MLS. You're learning how to use Dial-Up. You're learning how to, or whatever your transaction management system is. That's the stage where you're focusing on, how do I optimize my business to start making some cash?
Yes. And the best way, and again, we said this before, the best way to learn is by doing.
Yes.
Just get out there, start making sales, start following the plan, whatever the plan is for you in terms of interacting with customers, having real estate conversations that lead to closed transactions.
And we've talked about this. We've said this point before. I'm going to say it again because it's important. You can go to 50 contract classes on how to write a contract in real estate. You can go to 50 of them, and you're going to walk away with the same basic information in all of them, but you're not going to walk away with being very effective at doing them. Here's how to do it. Come up with 10 fake scenarios on houses that you want to go under contract with, and write 10 fake contracts and have your broker or your mentor look at them, give you some feedback, and I promise that's the last time you'll have to mess with that. You'll know it well enough that you can pretty much go out and do anything. There's going to be unique scenarios here and there, but write 10 fake contracts and that'll be the end of it. You will never have to do another contract class again.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so third, you have your administration, or the administrative capability of your business. A lot of this is going to come incrementally, and you're going to be bouncing back and forth between performance selling and then the administration of that business. So, this is where, and let me just tell you, from a real estate company, this is where we are always back and forth, is between, hey, we need to sell houses, but we need to fix this process. Right. And we're always back and forth. We're trying to get feedback from our agents to make it better. This is where I think it gets really messy, is in the middle of that, where you're going like, we need to adjust this process. When's the right time to adjust this process without causing disruption in the overall business? And so, there's a lot of back and forth or interplay between the performance and the administration, and baking in processes and systems and thinking about the long-term purpose or scalability of those processes and systems and how they affect everyone.
Yeah, you're still from the last stage of just making those first few sales. You're still learning those systems. You're not optimizing them yet. You're just still learning how to use them.
Right. So yeah, we do our best, right? And we try to make those decisions at the right time. So same thing for you in your, real estate sales business. You're going to be back and forth. Like for instance, with a transaction coordinator, which you should start this business with a transaction coordinator. If you don't have one yet, go get one. I don't want to hear the excuse of, well, nobody does it as good as I can do it. That's not true.
Wait till you have 10 houses under
Yeah.
contract.
Well, 3.
Yeah.
When you have 3 houses under contract at one time, you need someone to help you with that administration. Otherwise, it gets really messier than it should be. So, but those processes, you're going to figure them out over time, or what the best way to sort of carry out the process of a closing or process of a transaction to create something smooth. You constantly need to be working on it and perfecting like little pieces of it, but you still have to perform. You still have to go out and get new customers. So yeah, you've got that interplay between performance and administration. That's where the meat and potatoes of business is, or where I find is the most success and or frustration, is that back and forth. And so it's just important to understand that that's a natural part of growth in your business, is getting that part right, maintaining sales while doing administration, perfecting the administration of your business. The other thing is, like, as you kind of progress, that's when you get you need a tax professional, so on and so forth. So the other thing that I will say is about it in the administration part is where you need the most delegation.
Mm-hmm. We haven't done a podcast on delegation, but we should. That is such a critical piece of this as you scale. Maybe it might fit more in the integration step than it is in administration, but certainly you're starting to feel the effects of needing delegation in this stage, where you can't do everything. You are not the only one that's capable. Some of these tasks, you keep the bigger balls and drop the smaller ones down, and the lead generation, that part you keep. The transaction management, some of this other smaller stuff, you pass on.
Yeah, and as you become a busier and busier agent, you will start to hand off things like showings.
Yep.
You'll start to hand off
writing contracts.
You're going to start to hand off sitting in an inspection for 3 hours, things like that.
Yeah.
Which, can I just do a little sidebar on the inspection process? By the way, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. But
showing up at the end.
Yeah. Well, don't spend 3 hours at inspection.
No,
it's a
never.
massive waste of time.
Totally.
Okay. So what I would do is I would go open the door at the beginning, and then I would come back when the inspector, because the inspector would go to his truck to sort of work up the report. And I said, hey, when you go to your truck, send me a text, because it can take about 30 minutes. Now, here's the argument for agents: is they go, well, you need to be there the whole time in case there are any questions, or
ask them at the end.
Yeah, ask them at the end.
To me, going to the inspection and sitting there for 3 hours is the equivalent of the buyer sitting there while you work up all the documents.
Right. Well, and the other thing is understanding that, because a lot of people would think that it's irresponsible, or that inspector, it's most inspectors now are going to have an agreement with the MLS. There's going to be legal process involved in them, having access to a lockbox. And I'm not saying, you should just, I think it's important for them to have that stuff, for you to have a good inspector. But what I'll tell my clients is listen, during the inspection process, anything you need to measure for, bring a tape measure. Think about it, because we may not be able to get, it may be hard for us to get back in the house again, and because the people are going to be moving. So any of that stuff you want to do during that time, come do it. But you jumping in and interrupting the inspector is only going to prolong the process and bother him. He's got a process he's going through. He's going to report at the end. And if you need clarification on anything he found while you're there in that report portion, he can take you back and show you where things are.
And if you've got good professionals in your network, they're going to reach out to you if they have a concern that you need to know.
Right.
Josh is going to call us. If something goes awry at the inspection, got an issue that, maybe a red flag, he's going to reach out. You don't have to sit there and hold his pocket while he walks around the house and flags all these things. It's just not important.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there is, to me, no sense in just sitting there for 3 hours. Okay, moving on. The last part, again, and this is a little bit of a dance as well, is your cultural integration, which is, all of your baked in systems and processes and, all of that stuff. So, the built-in processes for scaling your business. So all of that is important, your mission statement, your mission, your vision and values, but don't focus on that from the very beginning because you don't even know who you are as a business yet.
Yep.
So I think there is an appropriate time to do that, and you'll know when that appropriate time to do it. Usually it's when you're bringing more people onto the team and you need to have a sort of cultural standard and process standard for growing and scaling your business so that you can create the same level of customer service across the board, the same level of performance across the board, so on and so forth. So that's when you're going to bring that integration. And again, I find a lot of realtors spend way too much time on conceptualizing who they're going to be in the marketplace before practicing in the marketplace. And again, I'll go back, I don't want to belabor the point, but you will find out who you are by doing it, right? By focusing on the sales. So when I was first a real estate agent, so I would sell anything. I would go anywhere, drive anywhere, if it meant that I could get a listing and a sale. And that's kind of how you have to think about this in the very beginning. You're focusing on the cash flow. If I need to drive to, Moore, Norman, because I started in Oklahoma City, if I need to drive to Moore or Norman or, Sayre or whatever to get a listing and a sale, and it makes sense, then I'll do it, right? To create that cash flow. Over time, I worked myself in smaller and smaller circles to where I was 90% of my sales were in the historic market in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
But that took 3-4 years to finally get there.
And I don't feel like you even choose it. It chooses you. Like
Yes.
you do these things and you start to figure out what you like, and people start to, and I remember your story. I think we told it on the podcast where you became like an expert at that one district, and people came to you for information about that district because they started to realize that you were the source of that information. So it's like it chose you. People started coming to you for a very specific reason that maybe you didn't even realize you were creating. You were just trying to farm a specific neighborhood.
Right.
And that whole, the way that whole played out, it really chose you, I feel like.
No, it's absolutely true. And that's where you need to be open going into the marketplace. It's like, hey, look, you just go do. Clint Shaw in Tulsa, Oklahoma says, he's like, being a real estate agent at first is saying yes to everything. And then over time, you're saying no to almost everything.
Yeah.
So you just have to have that mindset going into this where, hey, look, we need to just create income in the process or income into the business. And then over time, it's a perfect way to say it is like, it will choose you. You're going to find out what you like. You're going to find out what you're really good at, what you have a natural inclination towards. And it's great when it does find you, so you can kind of get your niche.
Well, and I can almost guarantee you, I didn't know you back then, but I can almost guarantee you that you didn't say, hey, in 3 years, I'm only going to work this one historic district right here. Like, you didn't know that.
Right.
You couldn't have known that. So it was a process that led you there. So if you had tried to focus on one small thing at the beginning, you never would have found kind of your niche.
Right. Which brings me to just another thing that I've been thinking about lately, which is goal setting versus habits, which I think is appropriate to talk about as we're wrapping up the year. Because a lot of us think in terms of goals, like I want to sell this many houses by the end of the year, and I want to become the #1 luxury agent in Brentwood, Tennessee. But I really think, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, I really think that the way to reach the things that you want or become the person you want, to have the income that you want, is really through habits. Like, I think the goals are good markers, right? I'm not saying don't do goals, but really what it is all of those things distilled into what happens every single day.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I think the biggest takeaway from that statement is that it's okay to say you want to be a luxury agent. We're not telling you to say like, I'm going to be whatever I want or whatever chooses me. Like, I'm not even going to focus on anything. You can say, hey, in 3 years, I want to be a luxury agent, but don't be so close-minded to the process that leads you there that you're not going to sell this $230,000 house that needs an FHA buyer or this or that. Like, just be an agent and create good habits, and eventually you'll find a mentor that can say, if you really want to become a luxury agent over the next 3 years, these are the things you need to be doing daily to get you there. And that's in my perspective, like, that's the big idea there, is just don't be so close-minded to selling anything and everything when you start out of the gate.
And you're going to be surprised for that, little house that you sell, what that potentially leads you to.
Yeah.
I've had $45,000 listings that have led me to hundreds of thousands of dollars in income.
Yeah.
Just because you're willing to look for the opportunity versus looking at it as just a transaction.
One of my clients from California, the first house he bought was $295,000 investment property, and he's bought like 7 more houses from me.
Yeah.
So, and the last one, was like 800,000. So it's, you never know. You never know what that investor has out there. Right now they're looking in the $200,000 price point. They might be looking at $1 million later. But just, again, don't be so close-minded that you don't follow a process. And eventually you might realize, hey, I don't want to be a luxury agent. I want to be this. I want to work this historic district.
Or I want to build a team, or, whatever the case may be. Allow yourself to be open so that you can find your way. Don't come into this too close-minded. So, and again, I'll just say, the ideal in my mind is, look, just set 2 appointments per day with people that are in the position to buy or sell.
Yeah.
That's it. That alone is, and with proper follow-up, is the key to hundreds of thousands of dollars in income.
Yeah.
If you can figure that out.
And that first-time home buyer that you're working with now, if you plan to stay in this game for the long haul, they're going to become that $600,000 buyer, and then they're going to become that $1 million buyer. I mean, it's a process. It's chess, not checkers.
Right. And by the way, when I say appointments, I mean people who can buy and sell. I don't mean like lenders and title companies and insurance agents and whatever, and like all of these people who are. That's one of the things when you're a real estate agent, all of a sudden you're like, wow, man, people are really wanting to get together with me, and I really want to spend some time and
I knew
take
people
me
like
to lunch.
me, but
Yeah.
that must be really cool. No, they have a strategy there.
Yeah, there's totally a strategy. So make sure that you're guarding your time and focusing on the things that matter most. All right. Anything else we need to talk about?
We touched on taxes, right? I mean, that's a big one. Like, find a good tax professional, especially if you used to be a W-2 employee. Now you're actually a small business owner. If you want to, for instance, buy a house, you got to realize, hey, I'm gonna be self-employed for a couple of years before that's going to happen. 1, but 2, if my tax guy's sitting here and telling me to write off everything under the sun, and now it looks like I make no money, guess what? No house. So just be strategic, find good people around you. There's a lot of ins and outs of owning a small business versus being a W-2 employee. Just because you sold, it's just because your GCI was like $1 million last year, but you wrote off 800,000 expenses. Guess what? Your income's 200,000. So
right.
Just be careful.
How often do you run into that from the lending perspective?
Often.
Okay.
No one understands that we're looking at an AGI, an adjusted gross income line, not what they total made in sales. So like, small business owners are very, they get very ticked off about that sometimes, where, hey, I made $1 million last year. No, you wrote off 800,000 expenses. You made $200,000 last year, which is still great income. Don't get me wrong, but it's just, understand that when you're, especially if you have a goal of home ownership on your own, like it's, you need to be careful.
You absolutely need to be thinking about that, and you need to be planning ahead and paying appropriate taxes if you're wanting to claim that adjusted gross income. If you're going to pay cash for a house, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
But if you're going to
get a mortgage,
get a loan, you're going to get a mortgage. You need to think about it strategically. All right. Any other stuff that we need to cover? I think if you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you are listening to this podcast, please give us a rating on there.
Yep.
Hopefully 5 stars.
We asked the brokerage today, kind of what they wanted to hear about. This was a topic of interest. If you have others, you know how to reach us. Got email address out there, rlhesson@theagentbridge.com, Brandon Baca@theagentbridge.com. reach out to us, shoot us a message on the Facebook page,
Yep.
The Agent Bridge. We're happy to hear ideas and formulate podcasts based on those. It literally takes us just a handful of minutes to put together an idea, and then we kind of riff on it. So shoot us a message.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great holiday, and we'll see you when you're back.